What is the worst thing a best friend has done to ruin your friendship? So this Reddit thread will be in the video description. Had a dear friend who was very into holistic healing. My daughter was diagnosed with asthma. So we of course got her all set up with an inhaler and anything else the doctor recommended. My friend was convinced she could heal my daughter with some sort of herbal treatment and bee stings, not caring at all that my daughter is allergic to bees. I was very clear with her to stay out of this, and she told me I was killing my child, that I'd been corrupted by Big Pharma, etc. My daughter has a horrible asthma attack soon after this discussion. Her meds do nothing. We end up in the hospital with my child unconscious. To make a long, painful story short, it comes to light that my friend had tampered with my daughter's asthma inhalers and her nebulizer to prove to us the medications weren't actually helping her. Needless to say, this was the end of our friendship. My best friend through middle and high school had a problem with a girl I brought home from university, who eventually ended up marrying, and we've been together for 20 years now. When he met her the first time, he behaved very strangely and standoffish towards her, which is a complete departure from his normal demeanor. I confronted him about it a few days later and he said, "I just didn't expect you to date someone like that." When I asked him to elaborate, his next sentence began with, "Well, I'm not racist, but..." What he said after that was irrelevant. Essentially, he had an issue that my girlfriend wasn't white. It has been 2 decades and we haven't spoken a word to one another since the day I confronted him. Hooked up with my ex-boyfriend while I was in hospital for a suicide attempt. I'm sorry, my fiance dumped me while I was in hospital for a suicide attempt. Talk about kicking someone when they're down. My girlfriend at the time and I were going through a rough patch. My best friend at the time was acting as the go-between, keeping things civil between us. But we came to realize later that he was lying to both of us and deliberately kept us from each other. I was in a self-induced rough patch at work due to some personal happenings. Friends started reporting my dissent with my superiors to them in an effort to make a name for himself and garner further advancement. This friend had been my best friend nearly from when we met for years. He was the best man at my wedding, etc. It stung bad. That was about 8 years ago and I'm still hurt by it. This was my best friend in high school and we went to different colleges. She was very controlling and competitive, so she was not pleased when I came to visit her with my new closest friend freshman year and realized that the new friend and I had more in common and got along better than she and I ever did. The next morning she called my super strict parents and told them about all the drugs I had done, weed on the reg and acid a couple times, nothing serious, and told them that it was all because of my new friend that she was jealous of. My parents freaked the out and gave me an intervention, and the whole thing really up my relationship with them. I don't know how she thought that little stunt would play out, but I hadn't spoken to her since. My best friend slept with my dad. She was the catalyst for their divorce and I was forced to move across the country from New York to Utah. Utah. Completely forgot about my existence. We were best friends for years and out of nowhere stopped keeping contact with me around my birthday after making a big deal about celebrating it, and nothing much since. Made me feel a little worthless after. I bumped into her a couple times last year and it's as if she never abandoned me. Whatever. Sometimes it's not something you did, but something she is going through, especially if you didn't do anything to provoke that type of response. The birthday thing could be she knows she's being distant and wants to make up for it, but whatever made her stop contact with you is still an aspect of her life. If it bothers you, confront her and get to the bottom of it. And that's actually good advice right there. So I'm a little late to the party, but a few weekends ago, my friend and I took a bachelor trip across Texas to celebrate. Beer, barbecue, and buddies. Nothing better. My friend of nearly 10 years asked me to be his best man as I was anticipating, and I of course accepted. Here's the thing. I'm married to my high school sweetheart of 14 years and we have an 8-year-old daughter together. On the way home from San Antonio, we drove up Highway 130, which is the fastest road in America, with a speed limit of up to 85 miles per hour. My friend drove recklessly all the way home. I'm not gonna go into all the details, but just know that I genuinely feared for my life and made that clear to my friend. He didn't give a The more I voiced concerns, the more recklessly he drove, almost like it was a challenge. At one point we nearly wrecked the car, and would have if I had not spoken up about the lane being at a dead stop ahead, because he only watches the car in front of him. When we got back, I got out of his car and left. We had no words, but I knew that he knew how I felt about the situation. I ended our friendship that night over text. Anybody that puts my safety at risk of not being able to get to my wife and daughter safely isn't anyone I'd let stay in my life, and there is no exceptions. He was only my best friend to get into my pants, and when we started dating, he started to become emotionally abusive and was a complete tool. While living in a 3-bedroom apartment with a few friends, I had lost my job. They told me that they would need me to move out if I hadn't gotten another job within a certain amount of time. Well, I did get a new job, however, and one day people showed up to move my things out. So now, not only was I homeless, but they were now trying to file a court order that I owed them money. I found out that they were spreading lies about me in order to convince people to their side amongst our friends. I ended up having to stay with my parents for a few months until I could find a new place and get back on my feet. After several months, I saw one of the friends who had kicked me out, and he simply just told me that he didn't have any beef with me anymore. I learned that ultimately you really can't trust people even if they're your friends. They told me it's my fault for being depressed and suicidal, that I should have said something before when I'd said multiple things over the course of months. This person just avoids and ignores me now even though I live with them. I joined the military when still in high school so I could ship for boot camp as soon as I graduated. Well, my friend took that as me thinking that I was better than him for some reason. He went around telling everybody how much of a I was for ditching everyone. I had a best friend for about 4 years. We met in 6th grade, and she was on every single family trip with me and spent every weekend at my house. For 4 years straight. So she got locked up for about a year, and the moment she got out, she started calling my family and being disrespectful. I let that slide. I then told her that my uncle, who was a very big part of my life, had lost his battle to brain cancer while she was in jail. She told me she didn't care, and that was the moment I decided to delete her from my life. It was Monday of this week. He had called me the night before, asking to come by. He comes over, orders a pizza, eats a couple slices, and then tells me he's leaving. Seemed weird because it's a 45-minute drive here, and he was hardly even here for an hour. So why come all this way to have a few slices of pizza and then bounce? I had known the guy 25 years, so he could tell that I noticed something was off. For sure. So he basically just tells me he's not mad at me, there's no bad blood, and I didn't offend him, but essentially he's just bored with our friendship and wants to move on as he feels that he's outgrown our said friendship. I had been a drunken mess all week. After a really scary and stressful audition for a musical, she said my singing was terrible right in front of my face in front of everyone. It really broke me because I considered her as a close friend and even looked up to her. She also fully knew because I told her that I was really insecure about my voice and hella nervous about having to sing in front of a lot of people. But she still said what she said, and it really hurt. The worst part is that nobody, none of the adults, like none of the other people auditioning, friends, no one said anything about it and pretended it never happened. So, naturally, shortly after, our friendship fell apart. So these are just a couple of other stories, well, depressing stories of how some friendships were ruined over time, or how some people deliberately ruined the friendships based on a couple of petty different acts. So, if you guys want to read the full Reddit thread As I said earlier in the video, I will leave that down in the description below, and perhaps if you have any like situations that seem familiar, I guess you could kind of bring it up to your friends and prevent this from happening. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope this helps you out in regards to keeping your closest friends in touch. So Rafael out, and I will see you soon in my next video.